Welcome to the March 27th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. My name is Melissa Santucci-Rossi. I'm the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. What we're going to do this evening is I'm going to introduce the folks that are here. We're going to swear everybody in, and then we're going to get into the agenda. We have administrative item for approval of minutes from the last meeting. We have two pending cases that will be taken in the following order: 11 Nichols Avenue first and 234 Warren Street second. And then we have a continued case that is going to be withdrawn later on this evening. So first, here who's with us this evening, we have Andrea Adams, one of our senior planners, Mike Mena, zoning enforcement officer, Louise Savetti, our zoning assistant, and we have all the full members here this evening and our alternate member. So we have member Donato, to my immediate right, member Ferris, clerk to the board, to my left, member Gannon, to his left, to my left, member Heap, to his left, member Gannon, sorry, it's been a long week, it's only Wednesday. And our alternate, Michael Bragwin, is also here. So our alternate will participate in the cases this evening and ask questions and have an opportunity to provide commentary, but will not be voting. The 5 full members will be voting this evening. So let's swear people in. If anyone's here and wants to say anything tonight, if you can stand up, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I swear the testimony I give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. So the first matter, we have approval of the minutes from February. I was not able to attend that meeting. But is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 27th, 2019.
There's been a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain from that vote. So our first case is 11 Nichols Avenue, and member Ferris is going to read the legal notice, and then the applicant and/or their counsel can come up and give their presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hudson Doyle, 86 Summit Avenue, Brookline, Mass. 02446. Herein request the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a special permit site review in accordance with Watertown Zoning Ordinance Section 5.01.1F, Table of Use Regulations, multifamily, so as to convert an existing non-conforming structure with 3 residential units and 1 commercial unit to a 4-family residential structure with no interior-exterior changes, located in the NB Neighborhood Business Zoning District.
Thank you very much. The applicant? Come on up, sir.
That's me. Hello.
Hi.
So my father and I purchased this property almost 2 months ago, and as he just said, it's a 4-unit building, 3 residential and 1 commercial studio space. In the front, you can see that thing popping out. It's about 400 square feet. From the listing photos I had seen, it looks as though it had recently been used as a residential space, and that's what we're looking to use it as in the future. If we get permission to do so, that's where I'm going to move into, and then rent out the other 3 as long-term rentals. From the information that I have gleaned working with the planning department, it seems as though the building can accommodate our request. It has the utilities already in place, and what seems to be necessary to occupy the space for residents. I don't have much more to say than that.
Okay. Is that your presentation, sir?
I guess so.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to the public first. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here that has any questions or comments about this proposal? Mr. Duff, please.
Dennis J. Duff, 33 Spruce Street. As I've stated in past meetings, that the density of the community is changing drastically, and that Massachusetts is the 3rd most dense state in the continental United States. To keep adding, we seem to be adding all these little add-ons everywhere that not only usurp our open space, but impact the density. I'm personally not in favor of it, but that's up to you, obviously. I do have one question. Going to a four-family, are they required to sprinkle the building,
I believe
interior?
I'm not a code expert, but I believe anything over 3 attached requires sprinklers. I don't know if anyone else can answer that, but we could include a condition that it obviously has to meet any building code or fire, life safety. I don't know, if the unit wasn't a legal unit, then it wouldn't be grandfathered, correct?
Correct, it's not a legal unit. Now, whether or not it's an existing building, there's a code for existing buildings and a code for new buildings. And yes, I believe the state building code is 4 units or greater does require to be sprinklered. However, it's ultimately up to the building official's call as far as whether it triggers that threshold. I'm not sure if the applicant has been in touch with the building official or not, may be able to answer that question, because I think we did raise that early on. That may be possibilities, so maybe the applicant could answer that.
This appears to be a violation of the zoning and an illegal apartment, but yet it's almost as if we were awarding people who use illegal apartments. And I know that's a little far-fetched, and I agree, but...
Well, you know, obviously, as you know, we have issues with those in the community. I think this gentleman just purchased the property, though. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, it's 2 months ago, he said.
Okay. We'll have some more questions for the applicant, Mr. Duff, to try to address.
That's all I have, so good luck.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, why don't you come on?
Oh, okay, so, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna
From
have the
discussion.
applicant come back up, and then we'll turn it over to the board, John. Just quickly, sir, so you said that you purchased it 2 months ago. Have you put a tenant in this unit?
We have people, no, this unit, no. I'm looking to move into this unit if we're approved. The other 2 units, we have folks moving in April 1st.
Okay, so that this unit is and has been vacant since you purchased the property?
Correct.
Okay. When you bought the property, was it sold to you as a 4-unit?
4-unit building, yeah. 3 residential, 1 commercial.
Oh, okay, so you knew that it was commercial, and you're now just, okay, okay, all right. All right, let's turn it over to the board members. Let's start down this end. Michael, do you have any questions or comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Anything, John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's the square footage of the living space for this 4th unit?
About 400 square feet, judging by the architectural plan provided.
So a total living space of 400 square feet?
Approximately, yeah.
Question for staff, is that that smaller unit, is that illegal? Is that,
I can speak from the affordable housing side, DHCD will accept units as small as 250 square feet as studio. In terms of the building code and habitable space, I mean, that's right.
I mean, yes, the fact that the state housing would approve a unit less than that, yes, it would meet building code to be a studio unit, yes.
could I ask if there are any 400 square foot or fewer units in Watertown?
Oh, yeah.
And where would they be located?
Somewhere in the housing authority, and there are studios that are smaller than that, off the top of my head, in the Muse, which is a rental, and I'd have to look at some of the more recent ones. They tend to be a little larger because they're new construction, and they are catering to the young, upwardly mobile, urban professional crowd, but they're not any smaller than the DHCD minimum. So that was something that we put in relatively recently as a minimum requirement.
Okay, and back to staff, how recently was that minimum square footage allowed?
I think we clarified the zoning probably the first time that the increase occurred, so between when it went from 10 to 12, so probably around 2012 or 2013, somewhere in there, would have to be 2014 to 2015, because that's when I started here in April 2014. So that was one of the first things that was done, was to up it to 12%.
Okay.
But let's make the distinction, that's for an affordable unit. Like,
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, the living standards for occupants and square feet per people is very, very small. A bedroom can be 7 by 10, which is only 70 square feet, so, yeah, okay.
And DHCD will take a new construction, what's called a micro unit, which is even smaller than a 250 square foot studio, as long as town will allow it as affordable units. Right, this isn't a subject to those requirements, I'm just telling you that for a population that can be difficult for them to find units on the open market, they can sometimes end up with units that are pretty small. But as long as the town will accept the units in total, and all of them are micro units, so that the more distressed population with less of a pocketbook isn't gonna be unduly disadvantaged, they'll take them all as counting on the subsidized housing inventory. It's just an example of that smaller units can meet the requirements.
Sure, and can I ask, separating the units that are well, put it this way, how many market rate units are relatively this small?
Again, I'd have to actually look at the data, but I have seen some this small, because they're catering to the young, upwardly mobile professional who doesn't have a car and might bike and doesn't need a lot of space.
Okay,
Because
great.
they prefer to have the urban experience and live outside of the unit most of the time.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Member Heath?
Just a quick one for, for Mike, Andrea. Is, in the application materials, we're describing this as a three residential units and 1 commercial unit. But is the commercial unit grandfathered or abandoned, or what's the legal status of the commercial unit? In other, it seems as though it's been vacant for a long time. Could they reinstate that use, or is that effectively gone?
Yes, yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Board.
Please, Mike, thank
This
you.
isn't a commercial zoning district, so the use as a mixed-use commercial in 3 units conforms to the zoning. Similar does the zoning district allows 4 units just by special permit. So I think the fact that there's no changes to the exterior, the use is allowed, the parking is there, staff found that they could support this change, that it met the standard.
Yeah, and it's our understanding from Mr. Doyle, and you can ask him yourself, that one of the reasons why he's doing the special permit is to, quote-unquote, in the term of art, legalize or affix residential to the property. So if the special permit is granted, it's a permitted use, and it becomes the use of record for the next person.
But in theory, if we were to deny the requested special permit, and I'm not suggesting that we should, the commercial use that is not there or been there recently could be reinstated at the
Yes.
And I guess the only other question is does what's being proposed require a building permit?
Yes, it will require a building permit because the occupancy right now under the building records is a commercial tenant space, so it would at minimum need an occupancy permit along with, if sprinklers are required, any upgrades to smoke detectors, that type of thing, yes.
Thank you. I guess my only concern with this kind of application would be to ensure that the unit, as it's being proposed and legalized, would conform to building code, but it sounds as though that level of review would happen as a matter of course.
Yep, and we know that from talking to Mr. White, who's the residential inspector, and that's condition number 5, is locking that in so that they can check it for what they need to check it as a residential unit.
Thank you. That's all I got.
You're good, thank you. Member Ferris, any questions or comments?
I do, yes, thanks, Madam Chair.
Please.
Just really one primary question. On the plans, the stairway that's to the right of the studio is really just an isolated stair that gives access to the basement exclusively from the outside. And so is that the way it's going to stay, or will there be access to the basement from the interior of the studio as well? Because the plans don't really show
No
that.
change, no change is proposed.
But will the,
The bulkhead here,
Yeah, that
It's a-
door to the right
Yes.
is to the
Yellow.
basement. Correct.
Yeah.
It's a stairwell down. I don't
Here,
really
just-
know why it exists. There's an odd kind of old trap door in the roof of the ceiling of the basement. I
Yeah.
don't know what it could have been years ago.
Yeah, I mean, at least the plans show that there's, it looks like a half bath down there.
Yeah.
And then the text, this is an old plan, says it's storage exclusive use studio unit, so maybe this is not an old plan, but that's what it says. So is that intended, is that,
That was the language that I received when I was looking at the listing, and as I purchased it, I haven't
okay.
changed any use.
So out of curiosity, you'll use it for storage, but for the whole building? Or,
Well,
what I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
is there an intent to create any living space in the basement?
Not
for
at
the
this time.
studio?
not at this time. I just use it for storage, because my father and I own the building,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm planning on living in the studio, so if I had stuff to put there, which I can't really see myself having, or stuff for the building, we could throw it down there, but beyond that, no.
But we're not intending to create living space in the basement?
At this time, no.
Okay, great. I don't, you know, in some instances, if we were converting a business space to a studio space, I would be asking about egress windows, et cetera. That aspect may change if it is required to be sprinklered, but also I don't believe that that would be required because there's a door directly from the space to the outside. So I don't think the windows need to comply in terms of emergency escape. I may be wrong, but you'll pursue that with the building official and confirm. But that would be the only reason that I would see that potentially an exterior modification would be required. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Demoto?
I just have a comment. I know, Mr. Doyle, you mentioned that you plan on initially occupying this unit, and sometimes these smaller units lend themselves to being short-term rentals, Airbnb, and just a note that we don't yet have a short-term rental ordinance on the books. So if you weren't living there and you moved out, hopefully you'd be pursuing a longer-term rental until we have such an ordinance in place.
I intend upon living there for the foreseeable future, but I'm also in the business of long-term rentals. That's what I'm doing, so that's my intention.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Member Donato. I have a few questions, too. Is there any opportunity to add any kind of greenery that would be visible from the street? It's just a lot of vinyl and a lot of pavement.
I don't see where you could without disrupting the access to the parking in the rear. Gideon mentioned that you folks might ask that as well. And there is a right-of-way that comes across.
Yeah, I see the right-of-way. I see your 2 parking spaces up against the house. I see the landing and the stairs. Is there any way to cut anything in beyond the landing before the parking? Or,
If you did, it would make it more difficult for cars to go in and out. They'd have to swerve around things.
around what?
Any proposed green space you would be adding.
No, I mean, it would be, they already have to go around the stairs, so I'm talking about, I guess it's north, given the north arrow, north of the stair bump out
Yeah.
before the first parking space that's parallel to the structure.
So that's where the first parking space would be entering and exiting over that space. It's also where I have the trash and storage bins, so they go over that space as well to the street.
So are you saying no, there's no way to add anything?
I don't think it would make sense.
The area on the plan that's labeled mulch, that's basically cut into those parking spaces,
Oh, yeah, it's like 2 or 3 feet from the building to the,
yeah, so why can't
Asphalt.
you extend that to the stairs?
that's currently where I have the trash and recycle bins stored.
So put them somewhere else.
I don't know where you'd put them without, having to go all the way around the building to the grass in the back. There's no other good place to put them.
You can't put them somewhere near the back area or something like that? I'm asking for like 2 to 3 feet of landscaping.
I don't know, I don't have a photo. Well, that last one you can see.
I don't need photos, I'm looking at your site
Sure,
plan.
yeah, this one you can see. So, I don't know where you think to put it. This is all for cars pulling in and out. This one has to pull around as it is.
Well, the barrels don't need to be stored on pavement.
It would make it inconvenient for tenants to have to move their barrel from the back of the building, wherever you're suggesting putting it, to the front versus on the side, which is accessible for them to both bring their trash in and out from inside the
So
building.
you store all those barrels lined up so everyone can see them from the street?
I mean, it's just, they're tucked away. I could show you a more recent photo. I just lined the driveway and trash recycle bin area for the tenants to put it.
Okay, so
against the
is
building there.
is the reason you can't do that because you put trash barrels there? Because if they can get around trash barrels, they can get around 3 feet of landscaping. I'm just trying to understand what you're.
I mean, the use of the space now is to store the 8 recycle and trash bins,
Yeah,
so,
Behind the stairs.
right. So to put grass there, it would diminish the functional use of the space.
Shot of the back. There's the back.
I can show you a more updated photo. I just painted the lines on the space that shows you kind of where they go.
There's also a shot in the staff report and in the planning board report.
I mean, anything. Sure, you can show it, sir. I mean, I have no trouble reading the site plan.
So
Yeah.
I tucked them.
Yeah, so move them somewhere else and extend that landscaping down to the stairs. I mean, I don't even think I like those barrels stored there, frankly. Why is that all stored where it's visible to the street?
Because that's convenient for folks to come out of the building and put their trash there, and then to bring the barrels to the street.
Well, you're gonna be living at the property and you own it, so you can't handle bringing the barrels in and out?
I mean, everyone's responsible for their own trash and recycling. I'll do
You
mine,
have 4 bins, you have 4 and 4 of each?
correct?
Madam Chair, may I make a
Yes.
comment or a suggestion? The units both have access, or all have access, with the exception of this new one under discussion in
Back,
terms of
right?
request.
Yeah.
You have access to the front stairway and to the rear stairway.
Yep.
And the rear stairway, when we look at the site plan, has a couple steps and then the walk to more, how many parking spaces total on the site at the back?
7, in the back?
Yes,
There's
you've
4
got
in the back.
4 in the back,
Yeah.
2 on the side, 1 in the front.
Correct.
So I guess what I'm suggesting is, when we look at the site plan, is when we look at the rear steps and the walkway that connect to the 4 spaces, that I think you've got the potential in that area there to have the trash bins out of street view, which I think is really the primary intent. And
They-
then you could extend the landscaped mulched area with some planting actually to the back of the steps. So it would just be, for any residents living there, a new routine they'd have to get used to, or for any new residents, the way it works.
I can tell you in the back, there wouldn't really be space for trash cans and for walking from
Yeah.
the rear parking
Yeah,
to the rear door.
You might have to modify the pavement a little bit, where it says walkway, so that potentially you could line them up along the back of the building, right above where it says 22.6 feet, and the walkway could be extended a little bit. Yeah, exactly. So,
You could maybe fit a barrel or 2? There's not much space
you know what, I'm
there. No.
an architect, and I'm pretty good at reading plans. So if you can fit the stuff between the steps and the parking space, I think you would, you can tell what we're asking. We're asking to try to get more green space there, and then we're seeing this opportunity to do that, as well as to kind of improve the appearance of the property by having the trash bins not within street view. So it seems that you would have an opportunity to do a little bit more paving in the back to receive the trash bins and to extend the mulch and do some planting there.
You said adding paving, is that what you said?
If that's allowable, to put a little bit more paving so that you could have the walkway as well as loading the trash bins.
Yeah, people would come out of the stairs, open the bin, put the trash in, and go to their car.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just to explain more, the nature of the request is to be able to have a little bit more greenery to improve the property appearance from the street, and by trading that off by having a new routine of having the trash bins at the rear of the house. So that's the request.
Is that clear to you, sir?
Understood.
Madam Chair, could you summarize the discussion there? I'm trying to understand.
So I would like to have, where the stairs are on the west elevation, the bump out.
Yep.
The 3 stairs and the landing, landscaping, starting behind that and tying into the thin mulch area so that we have some greenery that's visible from the street.
To replace the mulch area?
No, to extend the mulch area.
Okay.
Down to the stairs, and then moving, he stores the barrels there now, moving those barrels not visible from the street, somewhere to the rear of the property.
Okay. I do have a concern with regard to the mulch right against the property. I believe that's a fire code violation.
It can be grass, it can be plantings, it
Right.
can be,
There's a large apartment building in Arlington had a massive fire that killed someone just because of the placement of the mulch relative to the house itself. So I don't feel comfortable having that surface be mulch.
okay, we can say grass then.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. My other 2 comments will be, that this obviously needs to meet all building, fire, and life safety codes pertaining to 4 residential units, and that a condition, recommending a condition, no living and sleeping in the basement whatsoever. So no rec rooms down there, none of that kind of stuff. It's separate, it's not contiguous to the unit, and you haven't put that forward as anything besides storage. Okay, are there any other questions from any of the board members or comments? Do you have anything else? Okay. Do you have anything else that you want to share with us or discuss? Okay. Are you clear on what we're asking for the landscaping and the barrels? Okay. Okay. Is there any other further public comment? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing. We'll go into our business mode here. We have a staff report. Again, this is a special permit for multifamily, 4 units in the neighborhood business district. We have a staff report from March 7th, and then the planning board met and discussed this on March 13th, recommended conditional approval. We have basically our boilerplate conditions here, and as discussed this evening with the board, we will be adding a condition about building, fire, and life safety, adding a condition about no living and sleeping within the basement. Is that something that the board members agree with?
Yes.
Okay, and that it's for storage only. And then a condition that the barrels need to be moved to somewhere in the rear of the site and not visible from the street. And that the landscaped area on the west elevation of the property shall be extended to the stairs and landing and shall be grass. And some plantings would be nice, but we'll leave that up to you if you want to put some shrubbery or something in that area. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Does that seem like it summarizes everything? Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, for 11 Nichols Avenue, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit to allow an existing non-conforming structure with 3 residential units and 1 commercial unit to convert to a 4-family residential structure with no interior-exterior changes.
There's been a motion made for approval as described as Member Ferris with the conditions discussed this evening. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, second case this evening is 234 Warren Street, and we'll read the legal notice, and then you can make your presentation.
Is there a notice actually for this?
There, it's right beside you.
Oh,
Thank you, sorry. Thank you very much. 234 Warren Street, Lillian Perella, trustee, 234 Warren Street, Watertown, Mass. 02472. Herein request the Zoning Board of Appeals grant an appeal to the determination of the zoning enforcement officer that this property is a single-family and not a two-family in accordance with Watertown zoning ordinance, section 9.00, located in the S6 single-family zoning district.
Thank you. Attorney Leitner, please.
Madam Chair, board members can just have some handouts,
Okay,
one for everybody.
awesome, thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, Ken Leitner representing Lillian Perella, 234 Warren Street in Watertown. We're appealing the zoning enforcement officer's letter of January 9th, 2019, sent via fax concerning 234 Warren Street. Under the letter, the zoning enforcement officer made the determination that it's a single-family residence and requested that the stove and the sink be removed from the first level of the property. As to the issue of whether it's a single or two, the evidence I'm going to submit is that provided by the zoning enforcement officer that the town of Watertown has assessed this property as a two-family since 1991. We do agree with his record check as to other issues concerning it, but that's all I have to say about the issue of whether it's a two-family. But I do want
That's
to
not very much, Attorney Leitner.
well, we
And as you
want,
know, assessors' records have no determination on zoning.
we want to keep the record clean.
Absolutely not.
So, but we did say something about it.
Okay.
So it's always de novo. But I do want to address the issue of the zoning enforcement officer's order to remove the stove and the kitchen sink. And I have provided you, and many of you are here with the Zeminski case, which just take you down the road. It's probably 200 yards from where this house is, in which Judge Kazanjian said, under your zoning ordinance, under the definitions under 2.18 of a single-family dwelling, of a dwelling unit, of a two-family dwelling, there is no limitation on the number of kitchens. And she went on to find that under 9.0, there is no power of the zoning enforcement officer to request the removal. In fact, she called it a drastic relief of a kitchen, that a single-family house can have two kitchens, and almost ironically, a two-family house could have two kitchens in each unit, also the way the zoning ordinance is drafted. So that made it to judgment. It was a summary judgment, and she came up with that determination. And just to take you through it again, under 218, which I provided to you, under the definition of a single family, there's no limitation on the number of kitchens. Under a dwelling unit, there's no limitation on the number of kitchens. Under a two-family, there's no limitation of the number of kitchens. And under 9.0, the zoning enforcement officer doesn't have the authority to request the removal of a structure, of elements within the structure. So I'm here today to ask for you to find that the second and third part of his order requiring the removal of the stove and the sink, that you find that it's beyond the authority of the zoning enforcement officer to do so. He does have a remedy. It's in the Zeminski case. If the determination is made by the zoning enforcement officer, planning staff, that it is being utilized as a two-family, that there are fines. And that would be the remedy for them. I also point out that the Perellas have owned the house since it was purchased. There's no one, you can have more than up to 4 unrelated people living in a premises without violating zoning in a single dwelling unit. And there is no one under lease in this unit. There is another occupant, but they don't have a lease. Mrs. Perella is away, the occupant is there. And so we ask that again, the stove and the kitchen sink, the directive that it be removed, be found beyond the scope of the authority of the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay, so Mr. Mena has obviously provided us with a report. He's inspected the property. I actually reached out to him and said, what does the applicant put into? They're coming for an appeal. We have nothing from them. So you're not disputing that it has been used as a two-family in the past, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was the current situation when Mr. Mena did his site inspection?
My understanding that Mrs. Perella was there and the other occupant was there. But I think it was more focused, I wasn't there, and I just from the reading and talking to Mr. Mena.
So the unit at that time was being rented to somebody else?
No, there was an occupant there. They're not under a lease, and I don't know what the financial terms were. I don't believe it was rented.
Are they tenant at will?
No, they're watching over the property. She's down in Florida.
Or is it just some random person living there for free?
No, it's someone they know,
Okay.
yeah.
Have they paid rent?
Not rent per
You're-
se. No, I've spoken to them, not rent per se. They've made contributions, and I'm not trying to parse words.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what was going on at the property, Attorney Leitner,
No,
because there was nothing
I think it was
aside
more-
from what
I-
Michael had provided.
Sure, I think it was more the appearance of having the two kitchens, and having they're having the appearance of there being two units. That,
Is the occupant here right now?
no, no.
So I understand your point about, and we'll get into commentary from the board members, but I understand your point about the number of kitchens. The concern here is when you have a kitchen and a bedroom and a bathroom and a door, looks like, smells like, acts like. So
No.
having multiple kitchens is, in my opinion, different from having a combination of accommodations together that when you add them all up, they create a unit. What is this unit's in the basement?
There's a kitchen on the first level, and then there's a kitchen on the second level.
So this is actually on the first floor and not in the,
I call it the first level. I don't know if it's a basement per se.
Madam Chair and Board, it's a
Yeah.
basement level. It's a basement
style?
level
That's
is
basement,
where
that's fine.
this second
Okay.
kitchen is.
is it at grade, Mr. Mena, or is it below grade?
There are portions of it which are at grade, but there are portions which are fully below grade, so it's, or partially below grade.
Yeah,
We would determine it as a basement, according to our code.
Okay. And how is the first floor / basement separated from the first floor?
There's a common door there is a common stairway to them, and it doesn't have it separate, what you call the basement of the first floor. When you're coming down Chapman Street, it's at a level, it's at grade. I think you go back to the Cunniff School, that the grade rises. But the units do not have they do not have separate doors each. There aren't two egresses for that basement unit. There's one door in, and then the stairs go up to they'll call it the first floor level.
Madam Chair and Board, if I could clarify.
Yeah.
There's a separate entrance to the basement that is off of Chapman Street I guess, would be considered the back of the house.
Is that this, Mr. Mena?
No, that is the separate, that's the second egress where basically the door that Mr. Leitner is talking about that goes into the main unit. So part of the basement is basically part of, in discussion with the property owner's daughter, we didn't have access to that area, but that picture is you open up a door, there's a hallway there that takes you out another
Why didn't you have
exit.
access to this area?
We were not provided access. There is another entrance
What's that
that
all
is
about?
directly.
I wasn't there during any
There is
Ask
a
my client.
There is another entrance that is directly into the unit from the back of the house. That door is to the side of the house closest to the school
Okay,
that you're seeing there.
okay. Why was the zoning enforcement officer denied access to the?
I've been informed that he didn't ask for access to there.
Madam Chair and Board, I certainly did ask for access, and it was stated that we cannot get in that area. My coworker, Tony Mancini, was at that time and can also verify that it was said that we cannot go in there, which is why I sent an email to the owner's daughter asking for photos since we could not have access. And I have an email which actually states that fact, and we received those photos via email.
Yeah. I mean, given the situation in the town, you have to cooperate with the town. They're trying to do their
Absolutely.
jobs, and they're trying to get an idea of what's here. And it's a zoning matter, and it's also in combination with life safety and making sure that where people are sleeping and doing various activities associated with living are safe. So it's really unfortunate that he couldn't take a view of that area. All right, let me open it up to the.
Madam Chair, if I just may,
please.
I didn't take any objection to Mr. Mena's report. I read in that, it was taxed separately, that was it. The only thing I'm bringing up is the authority that the zoning enforcement office has to request that the kitchen be removed.
I know, but we're just trying to understand the property, sir. We haven't been inside either.
No, I understand.
We're trying to understand the setup.
But I'm not taking any objection to anything Mr. Mena has done. I put his reports there. It's not being disputed as to what he found there.
I'm not saying that
Yep.
you are, but I'm just trying to understand the configuration of the house and how it's set up and how it all functions, I guess. I'll open it up to the board. Member Donato, do you have any comments or questions?
I do. I just want to go over the components of this space. So as I understand it, there's a kitchen, there's a bedroom, there's a bathroom, and there's living space.
That's my understanding.
As I look right now at the definition of a dwelling unit, it seems to me that having a combination of all of those is the definition of a dwelling unit. So it supports independent living from the other unit.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that under the definition under the zoning ordinance, it doesn't limit the number of kitchens, the number of bathrooms, the number of bedrooms in a dwelling unit, by definition.
Well, as I'm reading the case that you provided here, that we just got to look at now, I'm reading, rather, the determining factor is whether the facilities are independent of any other unit. So that's why I wanted to go over exactly the layout within that space. So that seems to me the most important piece of the analysis here,
Hence my questions.
right? So I don't have any further questions or comments.
Member Ferris, any questions?
I do,
or comments?
thanks, Madam Chair. So how long has this bedroom, living space, kitchen, bathroom been downstairs in this house at the basement level?
Since it was constructed in 1970.
And how long has someone unrelated to the owner been living down there?
I'm not sure of that answer. If you'd like, I can ask.
Could you maybe ask your client?
Throughout the history, they've had different people live there, family members. They've had unrelated people live there, but throughout their ownership of the property, and they've been the only owner.
And when did the ownership start?
When it was built in 1970.
And I guess there's a couple things catching my eye that don't seem that they're really connecting together. That the permit in 1991 says specifically replace a window in the basement with a door for the family room, which kind of connotates that it's just part of the overall large house. Yet if potentially at that time and since then there's been people on and off living there that are unrelated, it seems like a separate dwelling unit, and it seems like it's operating as a two-family residence. The other thing that kind of perplexes me a bit is when you say that the person that is living there now is not paying rent per se, although you say they're making contributions. So I would say if the contributions are monetary, that sounds like rent to me, and also operating as a two-family dwelling.
I understand your point, but we're looking at this going forward. Whatever
I'm asking
illegality.
the questions about the history and about
Right.
what's existing right now.
But if it were being used illegally in the past as a two-family, we're starting from the zoning enforcement officer's report from January 9th. We're not going to use it as a two-family going forward.
So the person who lives there would be moving out, and you wouldn't
No,
have some...
he'll continue to stay. He helps
And
Mrs.
would
Perella.
they continue to make contributions?
If you like the full financial disclosure of what he does, I
I
can
guess
get
I'd
for
like
you.
to understand if they're paying rent or not, and if it's an unrelated person.
But he is unrelated, yes.
And are
you
they
can,
paying- and are
but you
they
can
paying
have
rent?
unrelated people living together.
And are they paying rent?
I'll step aside, but
Right.
what I'm saying is he assists Mrs. Perella. She's in her 90s. So, he assists with the maintenance of the property with Mrs. Perella, and he pays about $500 a month
To live there?
to stay there, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So in my mind, that means that someone is paying rent to live in a second dwelling unit within that structure. Whether the assistance is there or not, if he wasn't providing assistance, he would probably be paying more. But the reality is that someone's living in a second dwelling unit paying rent there. So that's how I really
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
understand.
more clearly understand in my mind. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Ferris. Member Heap, any questions or comments?
Nothing for me.
Member Gannon, please.
Yeah, a couple questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, let's see, relative to the assessment of the property as a two-family, if it wasn't used as a two-family, why didn't the owners file an abatement on the classification of a two-family? Maybe you don't know, but I'd like to ask your clients.
Well,
It pays extra taxes for 30 years.
they thought it was a two-family. They didn't discover this until Mr. Menace said it wasn't.
Your client thought it was a two-family?
They
Then
had people live there.
Why did they fill out building permit applications and sign them under perjury as one unit?
The one who filled that out is no longer
Attorney
with us.
Leitner, it can't be both. It can't be both. They thought it was a two-family?
We said they had people living there.
It's
a two-family.
the applications, for the one to build it and the one in 9, they wrote down it was a
I
one-family.
fully understand.
So if I'm putting on paper, I have a one-family, and all of a sudden I get my tax bills, which are not small, and all of a sudden I'm being assessed as a two-family, I don't know too many people that would go, okay, I'll just pay two-family taxes now, even though I'm a single-family.
No.
The reason is because they operated it that way for a long time illegally.
They may have.
They did.
But what I'm talking about is going forward.
Yeah, well,
And Madam Chair, further questions?
yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He did a fine job on my questions, following up. Question for staff. Did you, anyone present, speak to any of the occupants present?
We were visited there by the owner's daughter who let us in, and that is the only person who we spoke to during the visit.
And did you inspect the kitchen facilities and the bathroom facilities?
Yes, we walked through the whole basement unit that we had access to. As mentioned in the report and the notice, the bedroom did not have proper egress either, so there is some concern of it continuing being used as a bedroom, and, matches the permits that there was not a permit to create a bedroom in that area, which is why it doesn't meet code for egress.
And could I ask, were there permits pulled for the building of the kitchen sink and the bathroom?
No, we have not found any.
None at all? No permits at all for this work?
No, sir.
Maybe I can ask the attorney, when was this illegal installation installed?
From the beginning. As I said, it was constructed that way. And I'm sure Mr.
Madam
Medic-
Chair and Board, if I could clarify, it was constructed that way. There's a building permit from 1970 that was signed by the property owner at the time, which I believe was the father of...
Americo, sir?
Yep, that's it.
Yes, which states, purpose of the building permit, a single dwelling. And it goes on to state, if a dwelling, number of families, and the response is 1. In 1991, for the subsequent permit you had mentioned, it states, if a dwelling, number of families, it says 1. also signed by the property owner at that time. So, you know, if it was constructed as a two-family, again, you know, the assessor's office had it assessed in 1970 originally as a one-family and assessed it through up until 1991, when I guess the assessor's office went out and re-inspected some properties and noticed the separate unit. So from a staff perspective, it looks like everything in the public record, we would disagree that it was originally constructed as a two-family.
And one final question for staff. Mike, when you went to the property, you stated you were denied access to certain areas of the house. Any ballpark of how much square footage that you were, of this basement that you were not able to look at?
I couldn't say. I think the owner's daughter said there was a family room or living area that the main dwelling used in that area, and then there was the hallway that you see in the photos, along with the electrical panel, the single water heater, and furnace that you see in that second egress.
Okay, thanks. One second, Madam Chair.
Please.
Just a quick question. I'm looking at the Zeminski case that you
Yes.
provided us, and it seems to me that the circumstances here, at least from what I understand, from what you're telling us, are a bit different. Ms. Zeminski, and I wasn't on the board when this case was heard, but it appears was having her elderly, sick mother live in the basement. She wasn't collecting rental income.
At the time they did the inspection, there was a tenant there.
But going forward, she was planning on having her elderly, sick mother live in the unit, and
That's what the case states, but
but you're saying your clients aren't planning on changing what they're doing. They're going to continue to have this person that's paying rent in the unit going forward.
they're going to continue to keep open. If it's a situation where we make the determination that contributing, paying rent, however you subsume it, is dispositive as to the use, we'll come into conformity. What we're asking is that the power of the zoning enforcement officer be curbed so he doesn't order the removal of the kitchen elements. But if it's determined by you that it's a single family, and the only thing we offered, we didn't controvert any of the documents you have there. We haven't controverted anything. We said to you, here's what it was in the past. The permits speak for themselves. We weren't trying to obfuscate anything by saying, no, it was constructed the way it was. Mr. Mena can tell you, if you looked at the construction, did it appear to be aged? I'm sure it was. So we're not trying to, it's there. We don't want to remove the kitchen elements.
Why?
It's a convenience.
A convenience for what? You said that Mrs. Pearl is 90 and she's in Florida.
Correct. Bruno, she's coming back.
So she comes back and needs two kitchens?
She liked that option, and she's always had it.
So she's going up and down the stairs cooking meals?
She may. She is full of energy, for those of you who know her.
Madam Chair and Board, if I could also just clarify the difference between the Zeminski case. Although the summary of the judgment states that Ms. Zeminski intended to have a mother living down there, this is not a precedent-setting case. The town did not appeal that decision. One reason we did not appeal that decision is because that space could not have been habitable, could not have been occupied, because it doesn't meet the building code for height, and the bedroom in that basement also that was being used as a bedroom also did not meet the minimum size requirements of 70 square feet and did not meet the egress. So from a town's perspective, we did not pursue appealing that decision because we felt that the building compliance issues would prohibit anyone from occupying that space anyway, and therefore the impact of having someone down there with a kitchen, it wouldn't occur. In this particular case, we have where the owners and the representative have stated that someone, either a relative or possibly not relative, will be staying in the basement and living essentially independent of the rest of the unit to take care of the space or take care of the mother. And therefore, the impact of using that basement, again, living independently, is This is, there's no difference whether someone is paying rent or not paying rent. It is being used as a separate independent space, and the impact to the neighborhood and the use is acting like a separate unit. And the only way to rectify that is by looking at the definition, our zoning ordinance, that a two-family states is designed and intended to be used as a two-family. The way this property is designed to have a area to live in the basement, a full bathroom and a full kitchen, it is designed as a separate unit, and it's been indicated by the property owner and the representative that it fully intends to be used as a separate space for someone to live independently of the rest of the, so the only way to rectify that and make it not independent is that they have to share one kitchen. And that's where our determination is.
What about the bathroom? Could they take the bathroom out? Excuse me?
I suppose that's a,
Excuse me, sir, did you just have something to say? Can I speak a little bit? Yes, you can. I'd like you to repeat what you just said under your breath.
And go to the microphone, please.
This is just a single family.
Can you go to the microphone, please?
Sure. My name is Richard Perella. I grew up in that house. A little disappointed in the town. This is a single-family house with 4 bedrooms that only one gentleman is there taking care of it. None of us live there. My mom is away. She's 91 years old. The other 3 bedrooms are empty right now. So I don't see the impact of the neighborhood and bathrooms. I live in a single-family house.
Obviously, somebody was impacted, sir, because somebody called and
That was
notified
a
the town.
that was a disgruntled neighbor, and Mr. Mena knows that. And Mr. Mena even told us that if he didn't...
no, I do not provide information as far as who
In the door
complained,
that you
so
had no access to, you have access to at any time. My mom was home taking a nap.
I was told, and my coworker can
Was he denied
verify,
access?
that we
Sir, we're
could
not
not
gonna have
go
this
into
talking
the
and all
hallway
that stuff
area.
kind of
No, no.
going like this,
And-
Okay, no, I don't mean to get, I don't mean to get upset.
If the gentleman is saying that it's a single family, that's not what your appeal application is stating. The
Yeah, but I-
appeal submitted to us and what was suggested by the owner's daughter was that it was a two-family when they were inspected. So now this is something different of you saying it's a
Right.
single family.
Why can't we just say it's a single family, if that's the way, if you can have multiple kitchens, bathrooms, it's always been? And like I said, we're not really impacting the neighborhood. The most is ever living there is 2 people.
So,
You-
sir,
Yes,
if I may, please. So if your mom's away and this guy's watching the house.
Yes.
Why isn't he using one of the other 3 bedrooms?
he
that
can,
are
he can
empty?
flow right through there. That door goes right in. The door that they were talking about flows right into the house. It's just like it's a regular big house.
So why does he sleep in the basement with no egress?
No, this is a door 15 feet away. from
The
the-
bedroom.
Not a door, sir.
the
Well,
Why-
bedroom-
there's a door 15 feet away.
Why is he sleeping in the basement if there's rooms available upstairs? and
That's
no
his
one's
assigned
there?
bedroom. I don't know. I had one upstairs. Mine still sits empty.
Okay.
If I could clarify, they do not sleep in the open area. There is a separate room with a door that they are using as a bedroom, which does not meet the building code as a bedroom because there is not proper egress. If there is a fire in that basement because of work done without permit, like a kitchen and wiring, and there is a fire, that person will not be able to get out. Emergency personnel will not be able to get in and save them. That's why there are these codes.
Right, right. And it was under my
For safety.
understanding that when they came to the house, that the plans that you guys had weren't even of that house? Okay, I'm sorry. Take up your time.
Yeah, and I don't have any argument with the records, as I told you from the beginning, and I understand your positions on it. My position is really that the zoning enforcement officer doesn't have the authority to request the removal of the kitchen. You can certainly disagree with that, but I don't want you to think for a moment, the permits speak for themselves. We haven't argued against it. It had been used in the past as an illegal dwelling. We're talking about going forward. And I don't want to I don't want to go back and forth and
Yeah, exactly.
get your ire. You know,
Exactly.
if you just can bring it to a vote, I'm fine with that. If you don't have any more questions, I don't want to be
Okay, well, I
presumptuous
think,
either.
did you have any other questions for the staff or follow-up? Mike, did you want to add anything else to the?
No, just that, the representative is saying moving forward, using it as a single family, but they have mentioned and stated that they intend to have non-family or family staying down there independently. So Again, I don't know
So you
how
have
else to
to-
call it, but it's a two-family
Yes.
to
You
me.
have to do something to eliminate independent living down there. So you've got a bedroom, you've got a bathroom, and you've got a kitchen. To Member Donato's point, that constitutes a unit. There's a door 15 feet away that this gentleman who's screaming out from his seat just shared with us. What are you going to do to eliminate an independent living situation down there?
I do not have a suggestion on that.
You need to come up with a
No, I
suggestion.
just asked if you could bring it to a vote, I'm fine with that. My appeal was just limited to the little bit about it being taxed as a two-family, whether that flies or not, I want
You-
to state it to the
You
record.
filed for an abatement. if that
No,
was
no,
the
I'm
problem.
not arguing with you. And then secondly, whether the zoning enforcement officer has the authority to require the removal of kitchen elements.
Okay.
That's the only thing we appealed. And we're looking at it prospectively going forward, and whatever happened, but we haven't denied any of the record, and I don't want to leave, they're good people, and I don't want to leave a sour taste with the board vis-à-vis the Perellas, so,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I want to open it up to the public. This is a public hearing. I see a gentleman in the back. Are you here to speak on this matter, sir?
Moral support.
Excuse me?
Moral support.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Member Duff, please.
Dennis J. Duff, 33 Spruce Street. As that renowned philosopher Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again. And here we are back again with someone challenging the zoning enforcement officer, and that is their right, and I don't have any problem with that, and I'm kind of impressed that they hired one of the best lawyers in the town in the area, Mr. Leitner. However, when the public watches this, I worry that they're thinking, well, is there something wrong because people challenge what he made a determination on? But I just want it not to besmirch his name or denigrate his reputation in this community, or be a black mark against the fine work he does every day for our community. And I said at the last meeting and similar that I didn't go to the East Junior High with Mr. Mena or Watertown High School, and I think he's from California. When Nancy Scott left, I was a little nervous because she did an outstanding job, and I didn't think we would find a qualified person to meet up to her standards, but we did. So my fears were alleviated. But as usual, and I'm not saying this particular case would be, but it's usually about the money. Because when I grew up in the 50s, people bought two families because they couldn't pay the mortgage. They needed the extra rent to pay the mortgage. And when you made it, you bought a single. Well, today, everyone has a single, wants it to be a two or a three, because in the 50s and 60s, there were no such things as condominiums. But with the condominium style, these properties now can yield quite a bit of money. I'm not saying that this family, who I believe has been in the town a long time, if my memory serves, and I know the name, I don't know them personally, I'm not saying that's what they're planning to do down the road. But I'm just saying that it happens, that people that have twos want them to be labeled single units so they can sell them as condominiums and make a lot of money. And as I said earlier, we're talking about density in the community. So the decision obviously is yours, and I'm not particularly for or against it. I do have an opinion on it, but I'll keep it to myself. But I am concerned, as I say, that people in the community might have second thoughts or wonder about why are people challenging the office of the enforcement officer. And with that, I'll sit down.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak? Can I say something? Yeah, anybody can speak. Come on up, ma'am. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
I am Cynthia Perella, the owner's daughter and the agent that Mike speaks of that allowed him access. I just want to clarify a few things. I'm not here to be argumentative. I was not asked to have the occupant present at the time of the showing to allow Michael access. I was not asked to have him present at this time, else I certainly would have. He's very close to our family. We entrust him, obviously, living alone with my mother, who's 91 years old. He provides a very valuable service to us as a caretaker. His small nominal amount that he pays is for the utilities, to pay for the heating season, as no one else lives there during the heating season, and to contribute to the ongoing expenses of the house, if you will. The permit that Mr. Meaner, I believe someone had referred to, that was pulled in 1991, was on the other side of the house. It had nothing to do where this side. It was for an additional entrance, a patio area that my parents had put in the early 90s. So I just didn't want the confusion that that was put in after the fact. When I met Mr. Meaner, he physically saw the door, and he said, "Where does that go?" And I said, "That goes right into the main house. The mechanical room is straight ahead, and another egress is to the right. Beyond the mechanical room, it's a split-level ranch, would go to that family room that my parents had applied for the permit to add the patio from, and the upstairs are the bedrooms, and my mom's kitchen." So I said, "Well, my mom's up taking a nap, she's 91, I can't get you in, let me go around and ask her if we can come in or whatever," and you said, "That's okay, send me pictures," and I did so immediately. So I just don't want it to seem like I was like, "Oh, no, you can't go in there." I needed to say, I need to ask my mom permission, she's 91, she's upstairs napping, and Mike said, "Just send me pictures of when you open the door, what it points at," and I did so immediately.
I thought she was in Florida.
She's in Florida for the winter. However, the first time I met with Mr. Meaner and we physically went in, like December 8th or something?
December 13th.
Yeah. Yeah, she was still here. She leaves right after, basically the day after Christmas.
Okay.
So I just didn't want the tone to be that it was termed that I denied him access, and that was not the case at all. And again, the egress, that door that Mr. Meaner saw goes right into the mechanical room, into the main living area, and it's a split level, so there's the egress door. If you went to the right, there's another back door for an exit. The mechanical room is straight in front of you. You go out that door, there's a small family room and stairs that go up to the bedrooms that were our childhood bedrooms and the kitchen. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leitner, please.
That was the last point I was trying to make. I go in front of the board a lot, and we will disagree, and we have different positions sometimes. I like it when we have the same position, but, it should never become disagreeable. I think they're very good people, and, that's why I started with accepting the record that Mr. Mena had put together. And we're just looking for prospectively going forward. We don't want to remove the kitchen elements. But you have your ability to vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We don't have our planning report and stuff. We have Mr. Mena's letter to us and to the director, so this didn't go to the planning board. So do any of the board members have any other comments or questions for anybody? No. Okay, are we ready to close the hearing? Okay, I will close the hearing. Again, we've heard from the applicant's attorney this evening. It seems like there's been no denial of what has been going on at the property for some time. We have Mr. Mena's report that was very clear and concise on what he has found, both his zoning and building code violations at the property. Also the series of permits that we've discussed this evening, minimal pictures, and I will default to my fellow board members if they have any motions.
I'm sure I'm just going to add one more
Yep.
comment and more of an observation. I think it's becoming more and more clear when we're reviewing applications that I'm very uncomfortable with scenarios where residents are sleeping in basements that potentially do not have the appropriate egress. I don't think that that should be happening in any structure in the town. And so that really kind of weighs my thoughts on this. The other issue is that, what we've been told is that this scenario of someone living there independently has been going on, it appears, since 1991, which is many, many years ago. And so the discussion of someone being, in a sense, a home health aide for someone who's elderly, gosh, it's going on for nearly 30 years, and so I'm not super keen on granting the request based on that as well. So I just wanted to get that in, and I'm happy to
Thank you, Member
make a
Ferris.
motion
Please,
on that.
either you or another one of our fellow members.
So for 234 Warren Street, I'm going to make a motion to deny the appeal deny the appeal to the determination of the zoning enforcement officer regarding the two-family status.
There's been a motion made for denial of the appeal for 234 Warren Street. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. And we have one last matter here that we need to deal with. This is 195 Mount Auburn Street, Clark Elafatis, and he put in a special permit finding, and he's seeking permission to withdraw that application. Is there a motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice?
So moved.
There's been a motion made. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion made and seconded for withdrawal without prejudice. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Aye.